There's a 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance we're living in base reality. Elon Musk. Maybe our whole universe is a science experiment of some junior high school student in another universe. Ray Kurzweil. The singularity is near, when humans transcend biology. The more you dig into the physics and the philosophy of it, you realize that viewing yourself as a player in a virtual reality game or simulation is actually a pretty good metaphor for the journey of spiritual awakening. Rizwan Virk, The Simulation Hypothesis. A mind-bending theory has emerged in the last decade which has shocked the public: the simulation hypothesis. In 2003, Nick Bostrom, a philosopher at the University of Oxford, wrote a paper called "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" Bostrom's paper presented the simulation hypothesis with such a rigorous philosophical and probabilistic framework that it continues to this day to have an impact. With this paper, he brought a previously extremely fringe idea into serious academic and public discourse. Bostrom did not merely introduce the simulation hypothesis, but elevated it to a level where it demanded consideration as a legitimate, albeit controversial, scientific and philosophical possibility. The simulation hypothesis posits that our perceived reality might be nothing more than an advanced digital simulation orchestrated by some unknown higher intelligence, similar to being within virtual reality, VR, but at a far more sophisticated level. Virtual reality so advanced that we find ourselves living in a computer-simulated universe, experiencing it as real. This idea has resonated with many serious thinkers. Some have gone so far as to suggest that the odds that we are not in a simulation are 1,000,000,000 to 1. This idea that our supposed reality is actually an illusion is not new. In both the Eastern and Western philosophical traditions, it has long been suggested, notably in concepts, among others, like Plato's allegory of the cave and Hindu notions of the unreality of the world. However, the simulation hypothesis brings these philosophical and spiritual understandings into the realm of technological possibility. If we are indeed living in a simulation, what does this mean for spiritual understanding, enlightenment or awakening, and human consciousness? Could this actually align with the many spiritual traditions that view physical reality as an illusion or maya? Do we need to redefine spiritual awakening for the digital age as the transcendence of simulated illusion? But more importantly, is it possible to awaken in a simulated universe? If you enjoyed this video on the possibility of spiritual awakening in a computer-simulated universe, then please visit our online bookstore Asangaham Books. There you will discover curated books lists on this topic and other spiritual and philosophical subjects. Many of the books are available not only in hard copy and paperback, but also in digital and audiobook. You will find the link for Asangaham Books in the description of this video. The concept of the world, or reality being an elaborate illusion or simulation, finds expression in both the Eastern and Western traditions. In the East, particularly within Hinduism and Buddhism, the concept of Maya is strikingly similar to the simulation hypothesis. Maya, in Hindu philosophy, refers to the cosmic illusion wherein the material world is perceived as real, masking the true, unchanging reality of Brahman, the ultimate reality. Buddhism, with its emphasis on the concept of sunyata, emptiness, and the illusory nature of the material world, also shares similarities. Buddhist thought asserts that the phenomenal world is void of inherent existence, much the same as the artificial nature of a simulated environment. These Eastern philosophies encourage spiritual practices aimed at piercing through this illusion. Later in this video, we will examine more closely what exactly a practice aimed at transcending a computer-simulated reality might look like. In Western thought, the works of classical philosophers like Plato and Descartes offer allegories and thought experiments that bear an uncanny resemblance to the simulation hypothesis. Plato's allegory of the cave, depicted in The Republic, describes prisoners who, shackled from birth in a cave and forced to face a wall, perceive the world outside the cave only through shadows cast on that wall. Plato's allegory suggests that our perception of reality may be removed from actual reality. The shadows on the wall are the superficial reality experienced in a simulated world, with the real world existing beyond our immediate perception. René Descartes, an important thinker in Western philosophy, questioned our blind acceptance of the truth of reality. In his Meditations on First Philosophy, Descartes seeks to find knowledge that cannot be doubted by first doubting everything that it was possible to doubt. To this end, he suggested that we could easily doubt the reality of the physical world, as it might actually be the work of a powerful deceiver, such as an evil demon, who has created an illusory external world. The similarities with the simulation hypothesis are obvious. In the digital age, however, instead of a demon, it is an advanced civilization which has created a sophisticated computer code which we now falsely experience as reality. Descartes' philosophical exercise of extreme doubt points to the importance of not merely accepting experienced reality. Rather, it is in questioning its reality that we open the possibility of not only revealing its unreality, but also the possibility of discovering or realizing what is beyond its illusory nature. Descartes' exploration of extreme doubt led to a fascinating conclusion. It led to his cogito ergo sum, that is, I think therefore I am. In other words, Descartes came to the conclusion that while everything else could be doubted, including the reality of the world, the one thing that could not be doubted, that was absolutely beyond doubt, was the existence of the thinking self. That even though our reality might be simulated, whether by a demon or an advanced civilization, the consciousness experiencing that simulated reality must in itself be real. Cartesian doubt not only questions the authenticity of the perceived world, but also reaffirms the certainty and significance of individual consciousness within any given reality, simulated or not. This is very similar to how the spiritual practice of self-inquiry works. However, the conclusions regarding the nature of the self, arrived at via the spiritual practice of self-inquiry, are very different from the conclusion reached by Descartes. For Descartes, the self was at its base a thinking self. Advaita Vedanta, particularly as taught by the great Indian sage, Ramana Maharshi, points to a much deeper, vaster, and more open-ended conception of self than Descartes' thinking self. We will look at Ramana's practice of self-inquiry in a moment. But first, what exactly is the status of individual consciousness in a simulated universe? According to some versions of the simulation hypothesis, consciousness is an emergent property of the simulation, a mere byproduct of the complex algorithms and computational processes. This mirrors the materialist views of neuroscience and psychology, which see consciousness as arising from physical processes within the brain. The simulation hypothesis adds something extra to this point of view. It suggests that if our brains themselves are part of the simulation, then consciousness becomes a second-order emergent property. This means that consciousness is not merely the epiphenomenon of neural activity, but also the underlying computer code that constitutes the simulated universe. But then, who or what created the code? Is consciousness something external to the simulation, something imported by whatever entity or process created it? Or might consciousness be a fundamental aspect of reality, simulated or not, that is not reducible to physical matter or code? It is obvious that the simulation hypothesis brings up some profound questions as to the nature of reality. We want to know what is real. In other words, like Descartes, we are searching for that which cannot be doubted. We are searching, in simulation terms, for base reality. In Hinduism, there is a very simple test for base reality. Base reality does not come and go. Anything that has a beginning and an end cannot be real. Reality must be unchanging, eternal, always present. What then is always present? Can we say that consciousness is always present? There are times when we are unconscious, so it seems not. And certainly not if we are in a simulation, and consciousness is a byproduct of computer code. What about our sense of existence? Some schools of Advaita Vedanta argue that our sense of I am is fundamental, that our sense of existence is our base reality. In many of these schools, they suggest meditating on the sense of I am as a way of achieving spiritual awakening. That is, awakening to what they suggest is the fundamental and irreducible nature of being itself. From this point of view, everything is ultimately resolved in being. From this point of view, being is base reality. Being is base reality because being neither comes nor goes. But is this correct? The simulation hypothesis offers a hypothetical challenge to the notion that being neither comes nor goes. It hypothesizes that even our sense of existence, our sense of I am, may be merely computer code. The simulation hypothesis introduces the possibility of doubting our sense of existence as real. However, the simulation hypothesis is not the only challenge to the notion that being is fundamental, that being is reality, that being neither comes nor goes. Throughout Eastern and Western religion and philosophy, we encounter arguments, as well as spiritual revelations, that suggest that being is not base reality. Ramana Maharshi offered many of those who came to him the practice of self-inquiry. This entailed asking one's self the question, "Who am I?" What this question is pointing to can be best understood by a quote of Ramana's. That which is outside of deep, dreamless sleep is unreal. The question, "Who am I?" and the state of deep, dreamless sleep are pointing to the same unspeakable reality, that reality which is prior to being or to any arising at all. Nisargadatta Maharaj expresses something very similar when he suggests, meditate on the I am until you realize the I am is illusory. Nisargadatta is very clear that being is not base reality because, according to him, our sense of existence, our very beingness, comes and goes. In fact, Nisargadatta stated that the sense of I am, or the sense of existing, is utterly dependent on the arising of the body-mind. I am arrives with the birth of the body-mind, and it ends with the death of the body-mind. How does any of this help us to escape the simulation? If we are indeed within a computer simulation, we already intuit that our only way free of it is to seek and find base reality. For it is only then we will know the source of the simulation, and it is only by knowing and realizing the source of the simulation we stand free in relation to it. The spiritual teachings of Ramana and Nisargadatta hold true regardless of whether or not we are within a computer simulation. If we accept that being is not base reality, it does not matter whether our sense of existence, I am, or our consciousness are products of computer code. This is because base reality is nothing at all. Nothingness passes the reality test. It neither comes nor goes. Everything arises from nothingness and falls back into nothingness. Any appearance at all, whether computer simulation or otherwise, is merely a temporary and illusory modification of nothingness. Nothingness is base reality. With this understanding fully grasped, it does not matter whether what seemingly appears is a simulation or not. We have all we need to transcend the appearance of any world. Paradoxically, the gateway out is the primary illusion of I am. We inquire, who am I? We recognize ourselves as pure I amness, without addition. We rest in the primary illusion, our sense of existing, the I am. The simulation hypothesis suggests that even our very sense that we exist may be the product of computer code. It does not matter. We accept that our very sense of existence is illusory. We know our sense of existence as the root, or primary illusion. That is because no matter how the world appears, simulation, dream, hallucination, or otherwise, we must be there to experience it. The primary illusion by which all secondary illusions depend. Without the illusion of self-existence, or beingness first, the world does not exist. Therefore, we hold tight to the primary illusion of I am, until we begin to intuit its source. The source of I am, tacitly located as I am not. We have a wordless, thoughtless bodily recognition that non-being is the source of being. We realize a vast, limitless and boundless openness, an openness of infinite allowing, a limitless openness that allows all manner of worlds, of universes, simulated or not. This vast openness is the primordial state, prior to and transcending all forms, constructs and simulations. This realization brings a profound sense of liberation. In the context of the simulation hypothesis, it suggests that even if our existence is the result of a sophisticated computer program, the prior nothingness is beyond the limits of any program. Our true or base nature is rooted in the boundless non-being that precedes and transcends all forms and phenomena. Spiritual awakening as a process is the peeling away of the layers of illusion, which includes the subtle illusion of existence itself. By inquiring into the nature of this I, by resting in the primary illusion of I am and intuitively grasping its source, we come to a direct experiential understanding of the vast, open state of non-being. The simulation hypothesis, therefore, serves as a modern metaphor for an ancient spiritual truth, that the reality we perceive is not the ultimate truth. The essence of spiritual awakening is the realization that we are not confined to the limitations of any reality, simulated or otherwise, but are intrinsically connected to an infinite, formless source that transcends all concepts and categories.